Welcome back to Unlimited Reads. You're with Chris, and thanks for joining me today as I will be sharing with you my top 10 books of 2024. So I've decided to do a top 10 this year purely because I didn't read as many books as I did last year. Last year I did the first annual Bookish Brilliance Awards where I created categories and nominees and selected winners from those categories, but there just wasn't enough books from this year for me to do that, and I decided to do a top 10 instead, including a couple of honourable mentions. And this should be a lot of fun. Now, I took a fair bit of time making my selections. It was a pretty tough process to get the correct order of the books, although the number one spot wasn't a massively difficult decision in the end, but we'll see how it goes. Now, if you've been following me on the channel for quite some time, especially all this year, and me sharing with you all my great reads that I got through, you'll pretty much agree that this order of the books I'm about to show you does make sense, and you'll probably agree with my favourite book of 2024 as well, so we'll see how that goes. So without further ado, let's start off with some honourable mentions. The first one I'm going to mention is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. It was my first taste of his fiction at the start of the year. I wanted to start my Cosmere journey with this book because I figured it was 1,100 pages, and I figured if I get through that and I enjoy it, chances are I will enjoy everything else he has written, and that proved to be the case. I love The Way of Kings. Didn't quite make it into the top 10 because there are so many other really good books there that I really enjoyed, although Way of Kings does have to receive an honourable mention here because it kick-started my journey into the Cosmere. And I read everything since. So I read through Mistborn and Warbreaker and Elantris and everything else, including recently Wind and Truth. But it's always going to have a special place, and even though it's not in the top 10, it definitely deserves a mention because it did impact me in many profound ways. It was a real eye-opener and introduced me to some fantastic characters, and world building, and Roshar as a world is just absolutely incredible. So couldn't do a top 10 without mentioning Way of Kings as an honourable mention. The other honourable mention I want to talk about briefly is a debut novel that I really enjoyed, and that is 80s Ghosts by V.S. Lawrence. Now, I reached out to Vanessa and mentioned how much I enjoyed the book and gave her a plug on the channel, which was great. It was a really good ghost story, which was very original, and it also had a really striking cover, which I found fantastic as well, because it is very much attention grabbing. If you saw it in the store, you couldn't not pick it up. And really enjoyed that one. Even though it didn't make the top 10, it was still a really good book. Very solid debut novel from an author who I believe is going to go a long way. She is currently working on her second novel, and I've put my hand up to be a beta reader for that, or one of the very first people to read that book, and really looking forward to what she comes up with next. Alright, let's kick off the list officially with the number 10 spot, and that goes to The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden, the third book in the Housemaid series, which I have enjoyed the hell out of. Now, I really like Frida McFadden's writing because of how she puts not just one twist in the book like some thrillers have, but multiple twists where you don't see the twist coming, and the revelations are made, and you have a lot of WTF moments. I really enjoyed this one. Really like the main character in it, and just really enjoy what she does in order to overcome her obstacles. And yeah, it's just a really solid read, and I enjoy the writing so much that I've pegged February to read nothing but Frida McFadden books. I'm doing a Frida McFadden readathon, which I'm really looking forward to. I think I've got about 7 books to get through for the month of Feb, and I am really looking forward to it. But her writing is just really solid and compelling, and very fast paced, which are key ingredients to a really good addictive thriller novel. Okay, coming in at number 9, we have book 3 in Mistborn Era 1, and that is The Hero of Ages, which was fantastic. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed how the characters finish up their arcs at the end. My favourite moment in this book is an ascension from a key character who I really liked. I enjoy the magic system with metals a lot, and I just found the whole series compelling, and for this one to end like it did was very, very good, and we'll remember it for a long time. But yeah, Mistborn Era 1 I have really, really enjoyed, and it was part of my continuation into my journey into the Cosmere, which has been fantastic, and I can't wait for I did enjoy Mistborn Era 2 as well, and really looking forward to Mistborn Era 3, but a really deserving entry as my number 9 pick. Coming in at number 8, we have Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I really enjoyed this one. I read one last year by him called Home Before Dark, which was fantastic. What impressed me about that one was it had 2 twists at the end, which left me reeling, and this one was no different. It was about a disappearance of a young boy, and the cast of characters who are suspected as being the culprit was very, very well done. It was like a whodunit, and there are secrets and revelations, and a frightening revelation at the end on who actually took the young boy, and it just kept me on the edge of my seat all the way through. It kept me up late at night to finish the thing, and I really, really enjoyed that. And I am looking forward to reading more of Riley Sager's work, because he is very, very clever in balancing delicate plot threads and leading you down the garden path and swinging things around 180 degrees, because things are never what they seem, and they are the hallmarks of a really good thriller writer. And I can't recommend that book enough. It was a 5-star read for me, of course, and I encourage anyone to give it a go, because if you like thriller books with multiple twists, then that is the book for you. Coming in at number 7, we have All the Colours of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. The first time I've tried his work, and I was really impressed. It was a 5-star read for me. It was about the disappearance of a girl and a young boy who tries to find her and spends decades in his quest to solve these murders, and you're kept in the dark a lot throughout the book until the final reveal at the end. But I really like how these characters interacted with each other, and the moments, the emotional moments they have, and how the characters are explored was just absolutely fantastic. And I plan on reading a bit more of Chris Whitaker's work, but this one just, I couldn't wait to get to it as soon as I bought it, and very deserving entry in the number 7 spot. It's very, very solid, and I have reviewed it very favourably on the channel, and I recommend it to anyone. There has been a bit of divisive opinions across the readership. Those who read the book on Goodreads, some liked it, some hated it. I actually really, really liked it because the character really got to me. Patch, the main character, because he goes through a lot in the book, and you can't help but feel for him, and the massive twist at the end is fantastic, and yeah, it's really, really solid, and a fantastic read. Okay, coming in at the number 6 spot is a fantasy title which I really enjoyed, and this is a debut novel, even though a prequel novella was released as well. But I'm talking about Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. Now, he is a self-published phenomenon at the moment. He is currently working on his latest book, which he's just finished. I think it's due for release in March, but this is all about dragon lore and the fall of an empire, and fantastic characters. A little dragon that gets hatched, and who I fell in love with. It's just really, really solid writing. I think the thing that impresses me most about Ryan Cahill's writing is he moves his characters very quickly from point to point. There's no lengthy expositions or bogged down descriptions or anything like that. His narrative pace is fantastic, and I read through this very, very quickly. After reading The Fall, which is the prequel novella to the series, I was absolutely hooked and had to find out what happens, and I plan on getting to the next book in the series early next year, because I can't wait to find out what happens. And it has, I've heard nothing but good things on BookTube. Everyone loves it, and can't wait to continue the series. And yeah, it's no surprise that this came in at number 6 for me. Coming in at the number 5 spot, we have a debut novel, and that was The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. Now, this one has book magic and time travel. If you combine those two together, you have got me. And I bought this one on a whim because the cover got my attention, and I hadn't heard of Gareth Brown before, so it was a new author that I discovered. And I thought I'll just buy it on a gamble and see what it's like. And I opened the first page and was instantly hooked, because you have different types of books in the world. They're magic books. You have one is the Book of Pain, one is the Book of Joy, Book of Doors, and other things which grant the users the power of what the attributes are. So, for example, the Book of Joy, you can impart feelings of joy onto the recipient if you're around that person, and it has a main character that has to go back through time in order to achieve certain goals, and there's a secret society of people who protect the books against the big bad who wants the books all for themselves to have the ultimate power. And it's just a really solid debut, and this could be an ongoing series as well. But I recommend this book to everyone. It was a fantastic read. I absolutely loved it. And now, as we get to the business end of the proceedings, there are going to be no surprises here, especially if you've been following me for a little while on the channel. So coming in at the number 4 spot, we have Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, Book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. This one had so many moments. It was unbelievable. The standout for me that's going to stick with me for a long time now is Shallan's backstory and what happens there, and some key reveals with Kaladin as well. It was just absolutely fantastic, and I think I did a reading vlog for this one on the channel with about 5 videos, so if you haven't checked those out, please do. But it was a fantastic book that I enjoyed the hell out of, and I did enjoy it more than The Way of Kings. Coming in at number 3, we have Ordinary Grace by William Kent Kruger. Now, this was an absolutely fantastic read. Now, if I saw this in a bookstore, I would have just passed it by, because doesn't look remarkable to me. It would have been in the mainstream section of a bookstore, which I don't really frequent that often. But because of the Quilluminati, the excellent BookTube book club group made up of John from Talking Story, Brian Bell over at BellTube, Dr. Philip Chase, and Mike from Mike's Book Reviews, they did that as a book club read, and it came up on my radar. I researched the book and thought, this looks really interesting, because it's all about coming of age in the 1960s, and it's all about a murder of someone, and how the murder gets solved and what these kids go through. Nothing will make you grow up quicker than witnessing a murder and seeing a dead body and going through what they do. It is a fantastic read. I will read this again. It'll be a book I might read every couple of years, because it had such a profound effect on me, and was just really compelling. The writing from William Kent Kruger was sensational and drew me in straight away. When I first bought the book, when it arrived, I was in the middle of reading something else, and I opened up the first page just to take a sneak peek on what the writing was like, and I had to stop myself, because William Kent Kruger just draws you in with his beautiful prose, and you can't help but keep turning the pages. And I had to stop myself and had to tell myself, no, you got to wait, finish what you're reading first, then dive in and go all in. And that's what I did, and enjoyed the absolute hell out of it. So a really good solid choice for my number 3 pick. Alright, we're nearly there, guys, and coming in at number 2, we have Act of Defiance, Tom Clancy's Act of Defiance by Andrews and Wilson. First time contributors into the Ryan-verse. Now, the Jack Ryan series is my favourite thriller series of all time. Now, every time a new contributor comes in, I get a little bit nervous. I hope they do well by the series, and with this one I was not disappointed. This has become my favourite book in the entire Jack Ryan and Jack Ryan Jr. series, because it gave a really good nod to an earlier book in the series. And what happened was, the opening scene was taken from another point of view, set in the same events where the Red October was happening. So it was told from another viewpoint that we had no idea about, and involves Katie Ryan, Jack Ryan's youngest daughter, who is now an officer in the Office of Naval Intelligence, and is a bright star, and is on a really fast track to a really stellar career, and the way she saves the world at the end was absolutely fantastic. And I'm about to read, hopefully, Defence Protocol, which is the follow-up novel from Andrews and Wilson, which is the next installment in the Jack Ryan series, and I can't wait for it. But this is a very good, solid and confident number 2 pick for me. Alright guys, we've made it. The number 1 spot. This book I did have to consider for my number 1 spot. It took a little while to pick it, but this, to make up a number 1 spot, it has to have some key ingredients. It has to have fantastic characters, it has to have really good world building, it has to make me cry, it has to make me feel for the character and cry with the character, laugh with the character, and just be compelled the whole way through. And I think out of this particular set of books, I think this is the one I read the quickest. I couldn't get enough of it, and I am talking about Oathbringer by Mr. Brandon Sanderson, book number 3 in the Stormlight Archive, my favourite book of the series, and ended up being my top pick for this year for a lot of reasons. The lore, the world building in this one was fantastic. This was a Dalinar book. With Dalinar being my favourite character, I went to hell and back with this guy. We got all the answers we wanted from his backstory. He had a reputation of being known as the Blackthorn, and it really explores why he was known as the Blackthorn, how he goes into battle, how he conducts himself on the battlefield, what happens when he gets the thrill, which is described as an alternate state where he blacks out and he just fights, and when he looks up and comes to his senses, all around him there are bodies everywhere, and when he walks back through his army, they just make a path for him and they just look upon him in awe, because he is just this absolute fighting machine. And we really get a really good sense of how Dalinar's psyche works and what haunts him, the boon he makes with a goddess, and something from his past that is hidden from him. It's blocked, and as we see that become unblocked, we get a picture of what he did, and what he did was absolutely horrific. How that affects things in the future, and how it affects him as a person. But the main thing, the most fascinating thing about the thrill that Dalinar has going into battle is related to Odium, which is the big bad, and where the source of the thrill comes from. And how he gained that reputation of being the Blackthorn was absolutely fantastic. The climactic ending was fantastic. It was like an Avengers Endgame moment where all these key characters come together to fight the big bad at the end, and Dalinar has this most amazing moment at the end, and some of my favourite moments in the entire Stormlight Archive. And it's no surprise that this is the number 1 pick for me, my best book of 2024, hands down, and I'm very, very comfortable with that decision, because when I was making the decision for the number 1 book, it's no surprise that this was my number 1 pick for the year, my favourite book of the year, because it's the book I always go back to thinking about and how it affected me, and months later after I read it, it still affects me now, and it makes a lot of sense for it to be my book of the year. Now, if you've been following the channel for a little while, you're probably not surprised by this pick, but I'm very, very happy with it. So there you go, guys. That is it for my top 10 books of 2024. I'm happy with all my selections and the order in which I ranked them, and it was a very good exercise, and I'm just glad I was able to get this out before the end of the year. I really enjoyed sharing it with you, and yeah, there you go. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing. Help me get to the 1,000 subscriber mark and beyond. But until the next video, guys, happy reading.